Apparently I'm only capable of filming at 2 a.m. So I'm back at 2 a.m. Today I want to talk about the Asian readathon. This is my wrap-up video for the Asian readathon. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a readathon hosted by Cindy at Read with Cindy, where during the month of May you would read some books written by and about Asians, and that's what I did. I have a TBR for this here, whichever. I'll put a card up and you can go check that out if you want to. I have some recs as well that are books that are either written by Asians or have Asian characters in them. I'm gonna talk about the books that I read in the order that I read them in. Before I get started, I had 5 books on my TBR. I only read 4 of them. The reason for this is that one of the books on my TBR was The Library of Gold by Aditi Khurana, and I couldn't find a copy of it because my smartass decided to make the TBR without like checking to see if I could actually get my hands on a copy of the book. My library didn't have it in like ebook format at least, and like it's closed, and also I'm in a different state so I couldn't go there anyway, so I didn't read that. And yeah, let's get into it. The first one I read for this was The Way You Make Me Feel by Maureen. I rated this book 2 stars. It's about this girl called Clara who is in high school. I believe she is a junior or senior, something like that, and it's basically like a romance. My issue with this book is that I found all the characters super unrelatable. I didn't really there was no point in the book at which I was endeared to the characters, so I didn't really care about what was happening to them. It also picks up, like, the start is just like a random day and it kind of like throws you in, which that works sometimes for me. It didn't this time. It was just really not my cup of tea, but yeah, it was not super long, so I didn't like sit there seething or anything, but I got to the point where I was like, I don't really know why I'm reading this. So yeah. The next one that I read was The Girl with 7 Names by Hyeonseo Lee. This is an autobiography by this woman named Hyeonseo Lee. She was or is a North Korean defector, and it's basically her story of how she escaped North Korea and finally got to South Korea and like made a life there for herself and helped her mother and brother also get out of there. I didn't rate this just because I feel like it's just weird to rate a book like this. I can't really bring myself to do it. I think it was like a really hard book to read. A lot of the stuff she talks about is like terrifying and frankly kind of horrific. There's kind of like an inside look at how some things worked at the time that she lived in North Korea, and I found it really hard to read. But I also think at the same time it was an important book to read, mostly because it was so hard to read. Like, I think it's something that we should like give more attention to, and if you want to learn more about North Korea and you know, like what it's kind of like to live there, especially for from her point of view, since her family was not they were pretty well off for like the society they lived in. Like, they were doing okay financially and stuff like that. So she, like, the reason she escaped wasn't like because she was like struggling or like wanted a better life. It just kind of happened to her, and like her perspectives and all of those things. Like it was an interesting read. And yeah, the next book that I read was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Inc. I can't talk right now. And this book is basically, there is a neighborhood in Cleveland that's very affluent, and this family that is very affluent rents out a house that they own to people who are less affluent, and they like cover some of the rent so that if you're, you know, not like super rich, you can also like live in this nice neighborhood and take advantage of like the really good schools and stuff. And another family like moves into their house that they're renting out, and that family and this family basically get caught up in a custody battle for a child. There are a lot of secrets that are revealed. It was a really good book. I rated it 5 stars. This book has a lot to say, and I think it says all of it really well. At no point did I feel like I was being thrown, like someone was throwing words at me like, this is the theme, listen. But it brings up a lot of issues, and it discusses them in a way that makes you think about them rather than like kind of bombards you with what the book thinks is right. And I really love that about this book. I just love every single thing about this book. The way Celeste Ng writes is amazing. I also really enjoyed the fact that every single person, like every single character, even if they weren't super like significant to the story, they felt like real people. They felt like completely fleshed out, well-developed characters, and I loved that about this book. I have nothing bad to say about it. I recommend it 100%. I think it was really good, and I think it was really good. That's what I think. The next one I read, and the last one for this wrap-up, is what is it? And the Mountains Echoed by Khaled Hosseini. This book I also rated 5 stars. It's basically, there are these 2 siblings, Buddy and Abdullah, and wow, that accent change, and they live in Afghanistan in the like 40s. I don't know how time works. And one day, basically, they get separated. Like, Buddy gets sent off to live with another family and like pretend that like they don't know each other. And the book follows a bunch of people throughout many years and several generations until like Buddy and Abdullah's story is like resolved. And like a lot of other characters, like you also meet a lot of other characters along the way. I'm really struggling with talking right now, and yeah, that's basically the book. I love Khaled Hosseini. I have loved the other 2 of his books that I've read. I believe there are 4 that are published. I read The Kite Runner and A Thousand Splendid Suns. I absolutely love those. I absolutely love this one. I think he's a fantastic writer. One of the things that I really noticed with this book was that immediately when there were a lot of point of view switches, immediately as soon as a point of view switched, I could tell like the age group and you know, like some other stuff like that about the character who was whose point of view it was, even if they weren't previously introduced. Like there was this one character, actually there's several, but there's like this one specific one that I'm thinking of, who's like a little girl when her point of view is introduced, and like immediately as soon as like that chapter started, I was like, oh, this seems kind of like a little girl. And then like, and I was like, wait, it didn't say that, but like the way that he writes, it's just like it just like gets through to you, and it's so good. I think he really understands like people. I would also say this goes for Celeste. Like, I think as authors they really understand like the human condition, at risk of sounding a bit too pretentious. But yeah, I think both of them captured like distinct personalities and points of view and people with different like values really well in their books without like demonizing anything, or anyone, I meant to say. Okay, so that was the wrap up. Those are the 4 books that I read, so I would consider this readathon a success, even though I read most of them in like the last week. Don't yell at me. Yeah, okay, that's it. That's all I have, and please subscribe and like this video if you liked the video, and please comment if you want to do that. And this is why I don't like saying those things, because I always get confused. So I'm gonna go now. Bye.